Hi friends, welcome to Love and Life's Journey DIY. I'm Chantel. Thank you so much for watching. You've probably seen that the trend this year for Christmas is that kind of vintage, Ralph Lauren inspired decor style. And honestly, I couldn't be more happy about this because that's kind of what my vibe is anyway. I lean more toward that vintage look and I love it. It's warm, it's cozy, it's what my family loves, and I love it too. So these DIYs are so fun, and I can't wait to share them with you. So let's just get started doing some crafts. For this DIY, I am going to be using this sign that I picked up at Dollar Tree, and I believe it was $1.50 or $1.75, but I really liked the plaid on that. It is very on trend for this year for kind of that Ralph Lauren and vintage theme that's going on. And so I thought this was a great base to start with. It's very cute, but we're going to elevate it a little bit by adding some more greenery and some gold embellishments, as well as some velvet ribbon. And I couldn't find any of the velvet ribbon at Dollar Tree, but I did find this at Walmart, and it is 15 feet, and I think it was about $3. So I picked that up, and I'm going to be using that for this project. For now, I'm going to leave this hanger. I haven't decided exactly what I want to do with the hanger, but I am going to remove this bow. And to do that, it's on there with hot glue, and so I'm going to use my heat gun to help loosen the glue. Now, you want to be careful because this up here is metal, and so the heat gun's going to make that hot, so be careful not to touch that. I think I will leave these as a base because I'm going to cover them up quite a bit. They'll just add a little extra filler. For this, I want more of just kind of a traditional bow. I don't want to have a big giant bow on here. So I think I'm just going to make a simple bow for this. So I think once I add my greenery, my extra greenery, and my gold embellishments, this is going to be big enough. Now the edges of this are a little bit rough, and the fabric is fraying a little bit, and I was thinking that I had a little bit thicker gold cord, but this was all that I could find, and so I'm going to use this because I'm trying to use stuff that's in my stash, but I am going to go around the edge here just to kind of cover up that fraying edge, and hopefully the little bit of hot glue that I put on here will help keep that edge from fraying even more. I think to make this easier, I am going to remove this for now. I can always put it back on. So I have my gold trim here on the edge. I put it on the top edge of the front of the board here, right along that fabric edge, but then you can still see this wood edge, so I decided to use some of this dark green. This is a dark forest green, and I will just paint the edge of this, and I'm going to paint the back of my sign as well. So painting the edge green just really makes a big difference. And then of course I have the back painted as well. Now I'm going to start adding my embellishments. And I think before I put my bow on here, I will add a few more pieces of greenery. And this is just a stem of greenery I picked up at Hobby Lobby for 50% off. It was $1.50 is what I paid. This is just going to help really build this up and fill it in. Okay, I think for now that's how much I'm going to add. And then I'm going to add my bow. I really like these that are on the stem that I bought. It's kind of a mixed greenery, but I'm not sure. These might be a little too big, but I'm going to see what it looks like. Just, whoops, the bow wasn't dry yet. I think I do like that, so let's add those. Okay, I know I want to add some gold to this, into the greenery, and I found this at Dollar Tree, and this comes in silver and gold, and I think they have it in red, but this gold is really pretty. I think it'll be perfect in this project. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to use these berries or not. I don't know that I love those berries. I might add some other ones in, but first I'm going to put some gold in and just see what it looks like just with this. For this project, we are going to make some cute ornaments that look kind of like snow globes using these ornaments from Dollar Tree. We'll also be using some other ornaments to put inside. I liked these. I thought they looked kind of vintage looking, and you know that that is what is popular this season. And I also liked these little trees as well. So we'll be doing one using each of these. Also be using a couple of different kinds of ribbon and some fake snow. I kind of like this snow here. You can also get the little styrofoam ball snow. I do not recommend that because it gets so much static electricity in it that it just sticks to the sides of these really badly, even if you do like wipe these down with a dryer sheet. So I would steer clear of that. If you have something that's kind of like this, I'll pull it out of here. If you have something that's kind of like this little fiber, this is called white gold crystal fiber. I got this years ago and I've not been able to find it again, but I love this, so I kind of save this for really special projects. But any kind of white material or fake snow that you want to use in the bottom of this will be great, except for like those styrofoam balls. And then I'll also be using some of these little berries on my little tree. I was going to use some red beads, but I could not find any small enough in my stash, and so this is what I found, and so I'll be using these. So we're going to start off with the little snowman, and I'm just going to be using one of these ornaments in each of the little globes. So you can make two of these using this pack, and I believe these were $1.50 at Dollar Tree now. I hate that everything's a different price now because I never know what I paid for stuff. I am going to remove the top of this. I'm not sure if I'm just going to leave the ornament top or if I'm going to remove it all the way. I kind of want to remove it because I don't want it to look like an ornament. But then he's got this little hole in his head. So what I was thinking is maybe I can add a little pom-pom or something on top of that so it looks like the top of his hat. So I'm going to see what I can find to do that. Okay, I went digging around in my stash and I found these, and it has these little pom-poms that have gold and silver. Ah, it just rolled off my desk. We'll just get a new one. The gold and silver pom-poms go perfectly with these little snowman ornaments. The only question now is which pom-pom do I use? The silver, the white is cute. It goes really well with his hat. But the gold goes with his scarf. So I don't know which one I'll use. What do you think? I think I'm leaning toward the silver. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just add that. And I'm not going to put it right on top because that'll kind of look a little bit funny because it'll stick up high. But I'm going to put a fair amount of glue on here, and I'm going to stick it right on the front and push it down kind of up and over the top of that and hold it in place. That way it will kind of cover that hole on top, but really you're just going to be looking at the front of the snowman mostly anyway. So hopefully that's going to work out. All right, there he is. Oh, how cute. All right, so now I'm going to take the lid off of my little ornament, and I'm just going to take some hot glue and glue my snowman right in the center of my lid. Oh, he's so cute. And I think this is very kind of vintage looking. This reminds me of some of the ornaments that my mom and grandmother had, just kind of that old style, and I think that's really cute. Now, if you wanted to have him sit up a little bit higher, you can't go much higher because he's almost as tall as the thing, but you could put a little spacer, glue the spacer to the lid, and then glue him on top of that. But like I said, you don't have a whole lot of room to work with him. Then I'm going to add some of my snow in here. And I actually like how it sticks to the sides a little bit because that gives it kind of the look of like frosty glass or like a real winter scene. If it was completely clear and all of the snow was down at the bottom, then I don't think it would look quite as real, but I really like how that gives it just a little bit of a frosty look. So now I want to hide this plastic looking bottom. So I found this ribbon at Dollar Tree, and I thought it had a little bit of a vintage look to it. It's got the metallic silver and it's kind of a gray or silver color. It just has that vintage look to it. So it just kind of looks antique to me. And I thought with it being gray, it's going to just go really well with the lid here, and so I'm going to glue it around the base of this lid. Now, you could glue this on if you are concerned about maybe little people around your life that might decide to take it apart because they know end up with snow everywhere. But you don't have to. It's going to stay on as long as nobody decides to take it apart. But if you do want that extra level of security, you could put just a little bit of super glue inside this and then screw it on after you make sure you have the right amount of snow in there. I really like how that looks around the base, just really finishes it off. And then, completely optional, but you could also take a little bit of the ribbon and just tie just a regular little bow and attach that to the top of the ornament. Okay, let's do the other one. Basically the same concept. We're just going to use one of these tree ornaments. I'm going to cut it off right above the loop on the green that's holding the bell. Okay, so now I have my bell, and I have my little tree that does have a little piece of the wire sticking out there. This doesn't really have a good base for gluing down to my lid. So I'm thinking about using, I had these in my stash, so I'm thinking that I could use one of these styrofoam balls and just poke that down in there. I'll put some glue, hot glue in there. So glue it to that and then glue that on here. The snow's going to be around that. It's just going to blend in just like snow. So that, I think, is my plan. Oh, but before I do that, I don't want this little loop on the top, or little ring on the top of my tree. So I'll just snip that off using the wire cutters as well. Okay, so now let's add a little hot glue to that hole where I poked the tree in, and then poke it down in there again, and just hold that until that glue sets up. And then that's a great little base to glue to the inside of the lid. And you can put lots of glue in here. It's not going to show. You want that to hold your tree. So these little ornaments are so cute because you can basically put anything that you can fit inside of here in these, and so you can personalize them. A few years back, I made a set, one that had Mickey Mouse and one that had Minnie Mouse in it, and I used the little, just the little plastic figurines from the toy section at Dollar Tree, and they have a ton of those, so you could make Marvel characters, you could make the Disney characters or any of those that they have, and these would be fun gifts for kids because they would be excited to get an ornament with their favorite character in it. Full disclosure, I kept the Mickey and Minnie Mouse for myself because I like them. Okay, so here's my little tree in the lid. Now, I did want to add a little bit of color to this, so I am going to, and I'm wondering right now if my star is too tall. Actually, it's not, because it fits up inside the center of this, but it's barely too tall. Because I measured it without putting the little ball, styrofoam ball, but it's still going to work. I'm still good with that. And you can press it down in there a little bit. Okay, I did want to add some color to this. So, like I said, I couldn't find any red beads that were small enough in my stash. So I found these little berries that I think I can just pull apart into little individual berries. And I know that, you know, they're styrofoam, so you get the white, but you can either color them with a red marker if that bugs you, or you can leave them and it can kind of look like snow. It's just up to you. I'm just going to put a little bit of snow. Now the tree doesn't take up quite as much room as the snowman, so it will need a little bit more snow. So now I'm going to do the same with this ornament and add some ribbon around the bottom. And I chose this little plaid ribbon with the glitter design on it for the bottom. I thought that had a little bit of a vintage look to it. And I'll put the bow on the top of it as well. And there you are, the two cute little ornaments, the snowman and the tree. I think they're both adorable. For this next DIY, I'm going to show you a very unique way to give a gift card. And I think this is so fun and unique, and I think I would love to get it. So we're going to start out with this plastic flower holder from Dollar Tree. It's just a clear acrylic box, and it has the lid with the holes in the top. I'm also going to use this bow that I picked up at Walmart for about $5 to $6, and I'm going to kind of deconstruct this and use the elements from it. The best thing is, along with the gift card, we're going to fill it with some fun Christmas candy. So to start off with, you have your little acrylic brush box. Is that what this is called? No, it's not called a brush box. It's called a flower holder. Plastic flower holder. My brain was thinking that you could totally use this to store makeup brushes in, because they would just fit down in there and stick up, and you could see what you had. And then you could also put things down here. So I guess after they've eaten all the candy out of the gift, they could use this for that as well. So you could put your gift card in here a couple of different ways. You could just put it in here and fill the candy in all around it. However, if they don't eat the candy right away or empty the candy out, they might not realize that there's a gift card in there. So instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to just take a couple of glue dots and add those to the front of my gift card. And they're clear, so they're not too noticeable. And then I'm going to stick that on the front of my little gift box and try to get it straight and centered and all the things. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Then I'm going to take my candies and I'm going to just fill up my box. You probably don't want to fill this quite all the way full. I am going to take a few out. All right, that looks great. Now I'm going to put my little lid back on, and I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And I'm going to take my bow here and kind of take it all apart. So the reason I bought this is because I was looking for some Christmas florals. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money. I didn't like anything I was seeing at my Dollar Tree, and I didn't really like the just regular florals that they had at Walmart as well. So I saw this bow decoration, and I thought I can use the ribbon, I can use the greenery, I can use all these fun little embellishments. So I think this is going to work great. We'll see. But we're just going to basically take it apart. Obviously, if you have floral picks or stems that you like, you do not have to buy something so that you can dismantle it, but this was just how it worked out. Okay, so now that I have all my florals and things that I want to use, I'm going to take my box with the gift card in it, and then I'm going to just stick some of these down inside here, and I'm trying not to stab the chocolates, just to kind of go down in between them. And I'm basically going to make a floral arrangement through these holes. And you may want to add a little tape to maybe the back side of this and maybe on the sides, just to help hold the lid on so that it doesn't come flying off at any point when you're giving this. So if you're wanting to give something like this, like a gift card in a little box of candy like this as a gift for someone who may not really appreciate the florals in the top of it, you could use a piece of Christmas scrapbook paper to cover the top so it covers these holes up, and then tie a pretty ribbon around it just to make it look like a present, but leave the clear sides so that you can see the gift card and the candies inside. But that would be a nice way to do this as well. Love these cute little curly cues that were in that little bow that I took apart. If you wanted to make something like this, you could just take a red and white pipe cleaner and twist them together and then just spiral them around like this, but these are really fun. And there you have it. Isn't that cute? This is a super quick and easy project. I picked up this big jingle bell at Dollar Tree. I believe it was $5, and it already has all of this greenery and ribbon on it, which I really liked. They had these in several different styles and different colors of bells. I liked the little silver bell, and I really liked the looks of the ribbon and greenery that's on this, and this kind of glittery holly, because I feel like it has more of that vintage vibe. So I picked this up, but I felt like the bell could use just a little bit of distressing, so to speak, because it feels just a little like too new for vintage. So I just want to add a little bit to this. And there's two ways you could go with this. You could add a darker color, a brown or a black, darken it up a little bit, or you can add some white or lighter color to lighten it up a little bit. So the darker color is going to make it look like it's tarnished, and the lighter color is going to kind of look like it's faded a little bit more. I decided, because of the berries and color of the greenery and ribbon on this, that I'm going to use the lighter color. And basically going to do it kind of like dry brushing. I'm going to put just a little bit of paint on my brush. And I'm using an off-white color. This is Waverly's chalk paint in the color Plaster, but any lighter color can work for this if you want to kind of lighten it up. And like I said, you could use a brown if you want to give your bell more of kind of a rusty look, or a black if you want to give it more of that tarnished look. It just kind of depends on the look that you're going for. So I'm going to add a little bit of paint onto this and kind of tap it on my paper towel a couple times. And then I'm just going to go over it. Even that's a little bit too much. I'm going to take a little bit off. And I'm just going to kind of randomly go over this bell. Basically, all we're doing is kind of disrupting a very uniform pattern to make it look just like it's had a little age and time has changed its finish, because this looked new, because it is. So we're going to change that up a little bit. Once you are happy with how it looks and it is completely dry, then I would just give it a coat of matte finish sealer, just a couple light coats to help hold that paint on and keep it from peeling off. But that's all there is to this project. That's all I'm doing to it. You can certainly add more embellishments or change out the embellishments, but I like this just the way it is. For this project, I'm going to make a centerpiece using this tray from Dollar Tree. This is a nice heavy tray with the embossed snowflake design, and it's very pretty, and it was only $1.25 still. So I'm going to be using this, and then I will be using an assortment of different sized and styled trees from Dollar Tree to create my centerpiece. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint my little tray. I don't want this gold color. I'm thinking maybe either silver or white. And I think actually I'm going to go with white. I just think I will like the looks of that better with my trees. So I don't have any white spray paint. And so I'm going to use chalk paint in the color Snow White, but because this is very smooth and shiny, I am going to spray it using some matte finish sealer first, and I'm hoping that that will help the chalk paint stick to it a little bit better. Now that the matte sealer has dried, I'm going to use this Snow White chalk paint by Waverly to paint my tray. So I did make sure to paint the edges here, but I'm not going to paint the back or the underside. I think it looks fine, even though you can kind of see up under the edges if you look, but I kind of like that dark look under there. So I'm going to leave it like this, and I think it would be a good idea to use a sealer. You could use a matte sealer. You could use a satin or glossy sealer depending on the finish that you want. I'm actually going to use this glitter spray on mine first, and then I'll decide if I think I need another sealer. But I thought using this glitter spray would really elevate this a little bit and give it that shimmer that snow has when the sun shines on it. So when I went to spray my glitter on here, and I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but it did not come out of the can very evenly. It was just like dropping blops everywhere. So I grabbed a paper towel really quick and just wiped it over this, which at first I thought, oh no, I'm just going to have to paint over my glitter part with the white paint again. But when it's all said and done, it kind of gave it a dry brushed look and brings out the snowflakes a little bit more, and it still has that glitter sheen to it. So I guess I am not mad about how it came out, but I guess that's a good lesson for testing your spray before you spray it on your project. So now that I have this, I am going to figure out how I want to have my trees on here and kind of arrange them. And I have different styles of trees. I have different heights of trees. And so I do know that I want to cut some of them down and make them a little bit shorter because I don't want them all to be the same size. And these are really good for cutting down because they have the long wire here. So I can cut those off, which I think I will do at least to one of them. I have two of that style of tree. So now it just has the flat base and it can sit down here, and that makes it a little bit lower than these other trees. You know, you can do this with any type of tray. You could use one of the round chargers and make a round centerpiece. You could use just a bigger, like flat board and make a really long one of these. And there are some of these on some of the higher end websites that are really expensive. So I'm not feeling bad that I paid like $1.25 for each of these bigger trees. And then of course I got these in a 2-pack for $1.25. And so all said and done, this project's going to be probably $10. And that's still a big savings from what you would see in the home decor stores. Once I get these glued down, I may sprinkle a little bit of the fake snow in just where you can kind of see the bottom of the tray. So the first order of things, though, is to get these glued down. And I don't really want the wood bases to show. So the ones that I left the bases on, I think I'm going to paint them white so they just kind of disappear. Okay, so I have the bases of my trees painted, and I will start attaching them using my hot glue. So if you didn't want to glue your trees to the tray, you could just stand them in here. They do kind of hold each other up because they kind of stick to each other, and that way you could reuse your tray if you want to. All right, they are all attached. Now you can leave it just like this, or this would be really pretty to add some of the little lights to, like the little white wired LED lights. That would be really pretty. And like I said, it would be pretty to add some little bit of the faux snow in here. And you can also sprinkle it over the top. Just adds a little bit extra sparkle. So I don't know if you can see, but down in there, then it just adds that little bit of shimmer that makes it look like snow instead of just the tray under the trees. And what I love about this is not just Christmas. You can leave this out all winter long. So long after Christmas is over, this will still be something that you can use in your decor. For this project, we're going to use this little acrylic sign from Dollar Tree. This is still $1.25. And I also found this really pretty poinsettia tissue paper, and it has kind of a vintage vibe going on there with it not being like a real white background. And this definitely reminds me of something that I would have seen in my grandmother's house, such as like a pillow or a tree skirt or something. So I'll be using this. I'll also be using just a piece of scrap cardstock that coordinates with my tissue paper, and some little poinsettias, since I have poinsettias. How do you say it? I think it's supposed to be poinsettia, but most people say poinsettias. But anyway, I've got some of those to go with my tissue paper. And then a short string of the LED string lights. These are just the little wire lights from Dollar Tree. There's like 10 or 12 little lights, so it's not very long. And then I did cut out, and you can't really see them very well, but this is, it says Merry and Bright. I did this on my Cricut machine. I'll show you these in a minute. I'll also be using some green paint that coordinates with my tissue paper, and I'll use some nail polish remover and some Mod Podge. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the label off of my little sign. And then I am going to take some of this 100% pure acetone nail polish remover to remove this design. Now, be aware that doing this, it's going to etch the acrylic and it's not going to look very pretty, but I'm covering it up, so that's not going to matter. And you want to have a nice clear acrylic piece. This is not what you want to use because it's going to make this all cloudy and not look very good. Honestly, I haven't figured out what to use to remove this without damaging the acrylic piece. So if you have, please leave that in the comments below. That would help me out, and it would help all of the other viewers as well. So let me know if you have figured that out. But I just want this off because I don't want it to be showing through my tissue paper, and it's not going to matter that this is going to mess up the acrylic. Now, if you want to remove designs from like metal or something like that, this acetone fingernail polish works great for that. I mean, it does work great on this too, but like I said, it is going to mess up the acrylic. And you can see it's doing a number on it. But it does get that design off pretty quickly. All right, I have got my design mostly off of here. I am going to wash this and get as much of that acetone off as possible. I don't want to have any weird chemical reactions with any of the other things that I'm using, such as the Mod Podge or paint or anything. So I am going to wipe this off and get it nice and clean. Okay, so there it is, cleaned and dry, and as you can see, not very clear anymore. Now, because this base is kind of slick, I think I'm going to sand it just a little bit, rough that up so that it will take the paint, and the paint will adhere to that and not want to come off. And now let's paint the base of this using the coordinating paint that matches the tissue paper that you're going to use. For me, it's this green. This is called Leprechaun by Delta, and it's a nice vintage color green. I love this color. Now that I have the base of my sign painted, I will be adding my little light pack to this. So decide which side you want to be the back, and then you'll want to attach your battery pack so it's flush with the bottom. And when you put this on, make sure that the part that you open to replace your batteries is facing out, because you don't want to glue that side down or you will not be able to change your batteries. But I'm putting it this way because I have all of this amount of wire that has no lights on it. So I'm going to start by attaching the battery pack. Like I said, make sure it's flush so that it will stand up. It can even be up a little bit higher than the edge. So since we're gluing this all down, you do want to make sure that your light string works before you do this, because sometimes you do get a faulty one that does not work. I'm just using just regular old tape. Doesn't matter what it looks like. It's not going to show. You're not going to see it, but it's going to be the easiest way to attach these lights and keep them flat against the acrylic pane. So I'm going to go kind of around the outside edge. And there's really no rhyme or reason to this. It's just kind of random, however you want. And if it's easier to turn on the lights while you're doing this so you can see the spacing of them while you're doing it, then by all means do that. And I'm just wanting to kind of get some lights evenly spread across the whole panel of this. There's only 10 lights on this strand, so it's not going to be a huge amount of lights, but that's kind of what I want, because I want this to just have a soft glow. And then if you have anywhere where the wires are really wanting to stick up, just put a piece of tape on there to flatten it down and get it as flat as you can. So to cut my tissue paper, I'm just going to use my piece of backing paper that I have already cut and use that as my pattern for X-Acto knife, and very light pressure just to cut my tissue paper. Oops. Next, I will use some Mod Podge to adhere my tissue paper to the front side of my acrylic sign. And you just want to cover the whole surface well with the Mod Podge, making sure it's smooth and covered completely. And then I will just line my tissue paper up as best I can. And I have found it's easiest just to kind of use your fingers to smooth out any bubbles as you lay this down. Once I have this on, I am going to let it dry completely before I put my coat of Mod Podge over the top, because the tissue paper is so thin that it will try to rip and tear if it gets too wet. So I found that letting it dry for a while before I add that top layer is really the best way to go. Well, friends, I decided to make a change. So, we put the lights all on the back like this, and I was going to put this backing over those, and then it was going to look kind of like this. However, once I had the tissue paper adhered to this, I wasn't necessarily loving that look. I wanted it to be more glowing instead of just these individual lights. So I'm going to change it up, but I wanted to show you what it looked like this way because you may like it better this way. So you could do it this way, or I've decided to go ahead and take my lights off. Well, not completely off. I'm just going to remove all this tape. Sometimes you have a vision in your mind of how something's going to look, but once you get there to that point in the project, it doesn't quite meet what your expectations were, and that's kind of where I'm at with this. So it's okay to change things up. There is nothing wrong with that. And so sometimes it just requires more work, but you'll be happier with your project in the long run. So don't be afraid to pivot and make a change when something is not turning out quite the way you had expected. So now that I have these all removed and all that tape taken off, I decided that I would like the way it looked better to have all the lights just at the bottom. And so I took another strand of lights that I had and tested this before I decided to take all these off, because I didn't want to take them off and then decide I wish I hadn't. So I decided if I put them all at the bottom, then it's going to have more light at the bottom, but it's going to glow more up the picture. And this is kind of more the look that I was wanting. Once I have them kind of bent back and forth the way that I want, I'm going to just give them a little twist to just help them all stay together and not be so kind of wild, and this will make it easier to attach them to the back here and not have them be going all over the place. So that looks pretty good. You do want to make sure that you can't see any of the wires from the front side. Then I'm going to turn it on and see if those are spaced pretty evenly, and they are. And one tip here is if when you glue them, instead of gluing them right up against the acrylic piece, if you pull them back a little bit and actually glue them on the edge of the wood base away from the acrylic, that's going to give you more of that glow instead of pushing it right up against it where you can see more of the individual lights. I'm going to just go ahead and put a couple spots of hot glue to hold it in place. And now all I need to do is let this Mod Podge dry totally. It's mostly dry. I'm going to let it dry a little bit longer. Then I'm going to add another layer of Mod Podge over the top. Now that the Mod Podge is dry, I am going to use my little sanding block and just take off any of the excess tissue paper by sanding along the edge. And you can see it just comes right off, and you have a nice clean edge. All right, now it is time to add that layer of Mod Podge over the top. And you don't want to get too much, but you do want enough that it's going to seal that tissue paper really well. And also, you probably don't want to push too hard with your brush here, just to make sure you're not going to rip the tissue paper, because it is delicate. Even though it is dried to the acrylic piece, it still can rip because we're adding that moisture with the Mod Podge. And so just be real careful with it. And make sure you get it on the edges so that those edges will be sealed. And then I'm going to let that dry completely before we move on to the next step. My top layer of Mod Podge is now dry, and I would say if you're going to put vinyl lettering on this, you might want to put a second coat of Mod Podge across the top, because you don't want to risk that vinyl lettering or your transfer tape pulling up or ripping your tissue paper. So you do want to be aware of that and have a nice good finish over the top of your tissue paper. Now, I showed you in my supplies at the beginning of this project that I had printed off or cut out some words on my Cricut machine. I did this in white vinyl that I was going to put on here, but I did a little bit of a sample on there, and I didn't love the white. It just didn't give me that vintage vibe that I was looking for. And I actually cut out some black. I didn't like that either. So I'm going to pivot again a little bit. I'm still doing my lettering, the same thing. I did Merry and Bright, but I used the same just cardstock that I had originally cut out my backing from, because I really like this color and it shows up nice on this and just goes well. So I'm going to use this, and because I can just glue this on and not have to worry about the transfer tape or anything peeling up my tissue paper, I am not going to worry about a second coat of Mod Podge. But like I said, if you're doing the vinyl and the transfer tape and everything, I would recommend definitely having your base sealed and having a good seal coat on your tissue paper. So I'm going to lay out my design. So I'll kind of work on the spacing of how I want those to look. And then I think I'm going to use this Aleene's DIY Craft Industrial Strength Glue Stick. This I got at Dollar Tree. This is a new product, and Aleene's is a great brand of craft adhesives, and I've used it for years. I haven't ever seen this industrial strength glue stick, but it says it is a permanent bond, and so I'm going to give this a try. So it says it's orange, but it dries with no residue, perfect for crafting with wood, metal, leather, and more. You could also stick this on with your Mod Podge when you're doing that layer, and then do some Mod Podge over the top of it if you want. And now you can just add some embellishments. I think I'm going to put some up here in the corner. You can add some wherever you want, or you can just leave it plain. So I had these little poinsettias that have the little gold in the center, and I happened to find in my stash this little piece of gold embellishment. I'm not sure where it came from, but I really feel like this is very vintage looking. I remember seeing a lot of this glittery gold in my grandma's Christmas things. Then I just found some little pieces of greenery. I like these because they match the colors in this project really well. So I'm going to use these to decorate this up a little bit. Oh yes, I am loving that. I just wanted to hop in here real quick and say thank you so much for watching. I know this video is long, but I hope you're enjoying these projects. And I wanted to say thank you because this last week I celebrated 8 years here on YouTube. I just can't hardly believe it. And I know some of you have been with me from the very beginning. So thank you so much for sticking with me. And for those of you who are newer, or maybe this is your first time watching, thank you, because I just appreciate all of you, whether you've watched one video or all of them. And so I'm just so grateful for you and for this channel. So thank you so much. If you are enjoying this channel, hit that like button and let's get back to doing some more crafts. For this project, I will be using some of these tumbling tower blocks, and I will actually be using just the dark ones, and I'll use 10 of those. I'll be using some of the super glue wood glue from Dollar Tree and a little bit of greenery with these red berries. And I did get this at Dollar Tree, but I think I've had it a year or two. So, but just some sort of greenery. It doesn't have to be this one exactly. So I'm going to find 2 of the tumbling tower blocks that fit together nicely, that have real flat edges that will glue together nicely. And I'm going to use the super glue wood glue. I'm going to set those aside and let them. Then I'm going to take 3 of my tumbling tower blocks, and I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch. So on the edge, I'm just going to put a little mark, and I'll do the same thing on a second one. You only need to do it on 2 of them. And then I'm going to put some glue right on the end where I marked that 1/2 inch. And I'm going to put the end of this block where that 1/2 inch mark is. So basically they're overlapping a 1/2 inch like this. And I think this gel super glue is actually going to work about the best because it doesn't set up as quickly as hot glue, but it does set quick enough that you don't have to sit there and hold it or clamp it. You just want to make sure that you get the excess off and don't glue your blocks down to your table. But it just needs to be held for just a little bit, and then you can let go of it and it will stay while it cures the rest of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this the right way for you. You want to have these turned so that you have the full length of the block here up at the top. The 2 that we glued together are going to be our base for our little tree, and this is going to be either an ornament or a little decoration to set on a shelf. So the trick is I wanted to do this without having to cut like mitered corners. I mean, I could do that with my miter box and saw, but not everybody has those. So I thought, what is an easy way to do this? So I am going to use a little bit of hot glue in here because I think that will get those seams put together the best. And we will be securing this up here at the top a little bit more in a minute, but I just am trying to get the basic shape of my tree first. All right, so there it is put together. So to strengthen this a little bit, I have just a little natural wood star, and I'm going to glue that on the top here. That way it will be glued to both pieces and kind of help hold this together. And I'm not going to paint my star. I'm going to leave it kind of a natural color, but you could paint it gold or yellow or whatever color you want. But I'm just going to use some of that super glue gel and put that on my star. So I'm going to let that set up, and if you are going to make this into an ornament, you could put a little string around, tie through here to hang it. Or what I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to take a couple of extra of the tumbling tower blocks and glue them kind of like a little stand, one on each side of the base. And I'm going to use that as a little base for a little votive candle. It can sit in there. And I was going to use some of that berries and greenery that I showed you at the beginning, but it's kind of big, I feel like. I don't know. Let me pull off a few pieces and see what I think. Yeah, I think it's just too big. All right, so I think I'm going to add these two pieces of greenery here on the front. All right, so I just found 3 little berries, and I'm gluing these onto the front. All right, and then put the little candle in there. This next project is very easy. It only uses 2 items. It is these chenille stems and some ribbon. And I have to say, I did not come up with this idea. This I saw on Facebook and thought it was so cute. It is done by Amanda from Lovecrafted Decor, and I will put a link to her in the description box below. But it just uses chenille stems or pipe cleaners. I got this giant package of 200 for 50% off at Hobby Lobby, so they were $2.50. And then these ribbons are all from Dollar Tree. So I chose these because they kind of have that vintage look, and so I'm going to use these. But you're going to start out with using 5 of the chenille stems. And the color doesn't matter so much because they are going to get covered up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And basically just take your chenille stems and twist them all together. Then I'm going to take my ribbon and just attach it with a little bit of hot glue up here at the top. And I'm just going to kind of fold it down over the top. And then just start winding the ribbon around the pipe cleaners. So I did trim off a little bit of that end, and I'm going to put just a little bit of glue there to kind of help hold it in place. And then I'll be winding it at an angle and just kind of wind it tightly around the pipe cleaner. And I like this wired edge ribbon for this because it has the gold edges and it makes kind of that candy cane design, and that's what we're making out of these pipe cleaners. So it's perfect. And you can kind of space it however you like. If you make it a little more spaced out between the edges, then you're going to use less ribbon as you wrap it. If you wrap it a little tighter with them up closer, then it's going to use more ribbon, but it'll give it a little bit different look. And you can see I didn't wind mine very evenly. Right here it's thicker than here. I didn't wind it as tightly. So you probably want to wind it a little bit more uniformly. I'm going to go back and fix that. And then you can just bend it down in the shape of a candy cane. And you could hang these on trees. You could put them in a container, make a bunch of different ones. And if you wanted to make them thicker, you could use more of the pipe cleaners, or if you wanted to make them shorter, you could cut them in half, and then you would have just little short candy canes. So they'd only be like this tall. And so they're pretty versatile. They're really cute when you make several different kinds. So that's what I'm going to do. In this project, we're going to be making an ornament out of these cute little gift tags and a wood block and some baker's twine, or you could use any kind of string or twine to hang this, and then whatever paint that you want to use. So this would be a great project to do with kids. I'm going to start by just painting my little wood block. So this package has 18 tags in it. There's 9 different designs, so there's 2 of each design. And I think I'm going to pick just some that will go nice with my green block. These are just little tags you open up, and I'm going to cut the back off of these tags. Try to get all the little white edge off. And I love that these tags are perfect size for these blocks. So I am just going to glue these on. I'm going to use this glue stick that I got at Dollar Tree. This is a new product, Aleene's DIY Industrial Strength Glue. And I think this is going to be perfect for this. Instead of just going random, I'll put these like all on the 4 sides around and then leave the top and the bottom blank. Okay, so now I have my little pictures on here. I think that's really cute. You could, on the bottom, just leave it blank. You could add another picture, or you could use a paint marker or something to put a name or write a little message or write the year on here. So there's a couple of ways you could do your hanger. You could glue it to the corner so it kind of hangs like this, which would be kind of nice if you put something on the bottom, you'd be able to see it more when it's hanging. But I'm going to actually hang mine from the center of the top. So I'm just going to cut a piece of twine and double it over. I think I will tie a knot. That way you have more of a surface to glue to the top. And you can cut your ends pretty close because the hot glue is going to hold that knot together and it won't come off. So I'm just going to put that right in the center, nice big drop of glue, and put that knot right on the top. Get some of the excess glue off if I can. So you could just leave your little ornament like this with the hanger glued to the top, or you could add an embellishment such as a bow to it, which would be cute as well. Or maybe even add like some jingle bells around the little hanger. So you have that at the top, which I think looks cute because I think the jingle bells actually look like a little bow on top of a present. So I might add those. I kind of like that. And that would be fun with kids to do it with the jingle bells too. There you go. So cute. For this project, I will be using this little lantern or glass candle holder from Dollar Tree. I think this is a good deal. It's still just $3. This is the one, though, that this is not a vase. It is open on both ends, but it's great for this project. I'm going to be using this candle, LED candle that I got at Dollar Tree as well. This is $1.25, and it's very bright, and it just illuminates the whole thing, not just the top, and that looks really pretty in this candle holder. So we're going to be using that. And I was looking for some little tiny jingle bells, and I did not find what I wanted. And I didn't have time to run all around, but I did find this little wreath ornament for $3 at Walmart. So I'm actually going to take this apart and use this. And then I will be using some of this gold floral wire as well. And this I did get at Dollar Tree. So for this project, I can remove this while I am assembling it. And I actually think this might be a little cuter if you had those little teeny tiny bells, which is really kind of what I was envisioning. But sometimes you just gotta use what you can find. And since I'm using the bigger bells, I am not going to use all of them, and I am not going to use the white ones. I don't know if I'm even going to use all of these red and green ones, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. So basically I took my floral wire and I cut off enough to go around my candle holder 6 times, and then I added about another 12 inches just to make sure that I have plenty. So then I'm going to unwind this, and it's probably going to be kind of a little craziness going on here. I'm going to try not to get it tangled up. I'm going to start this on my candle holder down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to and wrap it around a couple of times to secure it, and then kind of twist so it's on there good, and then just snip off the extra. And that's what's nice about this floral wire. It's really thin and you can just cut it with scissors. So now I just have it attached here on the corner, and I'm going to thread my first bell on here, which is going to be kind of a long process because this is really long right now. To keep this secured in one place, I could wrap the wire through and pull it through again so that it's going around the bell and holding it. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to go in the other side and just pull this through carefully as to not tangle it all up. I think my bells need to be in a different place. And this will get easier as my wire gets shorter as we go. This first part's going to be the hardest part. Okay, now before I tighten this, I'm going to get my bell in the location where I want it on the wire. And I'm kind of trying to straighten the wire out a little bit as I go. So I think I want it right about here. So I'm going to hold that on tightly and then pull my loop tight. And now it's not going to slide. Okay, so now to hold this on, I think I'm going to wrap around this, and that's going to hold it more in place. And now I'm going to add a green bell for this next section. Okay, so I've got two of the same color on each side, except here I think I'm going to switch. I'm going to go red here, and then I'm going to start filling in alternate colors on each side. So I'll put green over here on this side. So I did wrap some of my extra wire around without adding a bell on it. So there are some of the wires that don't actually have a bell on it. And I just added the different colors, trying to kind of spread them out. And then I wrapped the end of my wire around, twisted it, and just cut off that little excess. So here's how it looks with my bells, and I'm going to add my candle to this. Now, since this is an LED candle, I could add some filler or something in the bottom to just give it a little bit more of an elevated look. So I am going to try this filler that I have. This is super pretty. I got this years and years ago. It's called White Gold Crystal Fiber, and I have not been able to find it. This is all I have left, and so I'm kind of stingy with it. But I think it would be super pretty in the bottom of this. I really like that. I think that just adds just a little something extra to hide the bottom of the candle holder around the candle. Then I also decided just to add that velvet green bow that was on the ornament I took the bells off of, and I think that is super cute. These ornaments I saw on Pinterest and they are so cute. I just had to try them. I actually made them last year for my nieces and nephews, but it was kind of a last minute thing. So I didn't put them on a video, but I did want to show them to you because if you want to make them like for your kids' teachers or for your kids to give to their friends or anything like that, it's something that kids can help with, and they're super easy to make and so, so cute. So what you'll need are the little solo shot glasses from Dollar Tree and some of the little DIY ornaments that are in the 2-pack that fit real nice on top of these little solo cups. And then I got these little glitter bows. There were 12 of them for $1.25. Like I said, I got these last year, but these were perfect for adding to these ornaments. And then I'm going to use some of this red and white striped twine, and then you'll need some of the little pop can tabs and some red and green M&Ms. So like I said, these are super easy, and all we're going to do is attach the ornament to the little red cup. And I did take the hanger off because I'm going to be using my little red and white twine, but we're going to attach the ornament using a little hot glue. Just try to get it straight up and down. So I'm going to put some glue right here. And of course, if you have kids helping with this, you know, you want someone to supervise the hot glue, but then they can press that on with a little bit of help. And then this, adults will probably want to do because the hot glue does make these hot. So if you want to wear the finger tip protectors or just work quickly, but this is going to be just glued on the front to look like the little vending machine where you put the money in and the gumball comes out. And so I just put a little bit of hot glue in a couple of spots on this. And glue that to the front. And then you can add your little M&Ms in here. You can get the minis or you can get the regular size. Oops, didn't make my hole big enough. The regular size do fit in here. Just don't get peanut M&Ms. Those won't fit in here. So you can put however many you want in there. I think it looks cute not to fill it all the way full. Or maybe a few more. And you just put your top back on. And then we'll make a little hanger. And you can just take one of your little glitter bows. And I just twist that twisty tie that is holding the little silver ball on there. I just twist it really tight and then trim it off, kind of bend it over, and then just attach this to the top. But that's all there is to these. Super cute ornament. I actually wrote my nieces and nephews' names, and my grandson CJ, I put his name on theirs so that they all knew which one belonged to them, and there was no fighting over that. But just a super cute and easy ornament, and it makes a really cute little gift too.
For this project, I will be making a cute vintage ornament using these wood frames from Dollar Tree, and these come in a 4-pack. And I'm also going to be using these little die cut leaves. They, I think, are supposed to be more tropical, but I think I can make them look like pine boughs. And I can't believe if you saw my last Dollar Tree haul, I got these for a penny uh, per package. So that was crazy. I'll also be using some red berries like these and some gold twine for my hanger. And I'm going to use some forest green paint to paint my pine boughs and some champagne gold paint for my frame.
I'm going to start by painting my two little frames gold. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to use both frames for one ornament, or I'll just make two ornaments out of them if I decide to assemble this using just one frame. But I have a couple of ideas of how to assemble these different ways, and I just kind of want to see what it looks like. So I will paint two just in case I want to use two for this one ornament. Again, I'm going with this gold paint to kind of go back to that vintage look, and I really like this gold. It is Deco Art Dazzling Metallic Champagne Gold, so it's not like the really bright gold, and I just really think this is a really pretty color of gold for a metallic. Now I'm going to take my little cardboard cutouts and use my forest green, and I'll paint these more so they look more like that pine look instead of kind of this tropical look. Still can't believe I got these for 1 penny. And I'm going to be painting both sides of these as well. Now that my little leaves are dry, I think I will take just a little bit of the gold paint and just get a little bit on a dry brush, and I think I'm going to do a little gold dry brush on this just to give them a little bit of sparkle and shine, and then this will kind of tie them in with the frames as well. Okay, you can see that just is going to give it a little bit of shine and sparkle. Really pretty. So now I have my frames all painted gold. I have my little pine boughs that are all painted. And so I am going to arrange these. I'm thinking I'm going to sandwich them in between the two frames so that it looks great from both sides. My other thought was to do the two and then to add this third one on the outside here. So it's really got a three-dimensional look, and I think I kind of like that. So let's start assembling this here. Let's add a little glue. And I'm basically just putting a little bit of glue on the top and the bottom of the little pine boughs so that it'll stick to the frame. And just make sure your frames line up and hold those down until the glue is set. This is another really easy ornament to do, but very unique and very pretty. Then I'm going to add this one on top, kind of at an angle going off of the frame. And I was thinking about using a few of these berries, but they seem a little bit too big to me, so I'm going to see if I can find some smaller ones. So maybe a little bunch of these would be a little bit more appropriate for the size. So some cute little berries on there, and then all that's left is to add a little hanger. This would also be really cute to add some of the uh, plaid ribbon to. If you had some of like the narrow plaid, any type of ribbon bow up here would be really pretty too. I'm sure you've probably seen versions of this DIY on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all the places, but I wanted to give the little gingerbread houses a try to make them look more kind of like the high-end style gingerbread houses that you're seeing everywhere. So I did pick up a couple of the little houses from Dollar Tree, and while this one is already a gingerbread house, it just looks kind of cheap and not the style I'm going for. So I will be using some of these houses, and then I will be painting them using this nutmeg colored spray paint. And then to add my designs to it, I will be using an acrylic paint marker. This is from Arteza, but any white paint marker will work.
So first I will give my little houses several light coats of the spray paint, and I'm letting them dry all the way in between each coat. And it took about 4 coats of paint to get all of the little nooks and crannies all um, covered with the paint, but it does really look like gingerbread.
So obviously turning these into little gingerbread houses is certainly not my original idea. You've seen this all over the internet, I'm sure, but I just wanted to give it a try. The nutmeg paint really does look like the right color for this. And of course, like I said, this one was the one that was a gingerbread house, but it just looked really kind of cheap, and I wanted to elevate this. So I am using this Arteza paint marker, and I did kind of test it out to see what width of a line I could get. So if I don't push down real hard, I can get a narrower line. If I push down harder, I can get a thicker line. And I think this is going to work. This is actually a paint marker, and so I think it will work. And I'm going to go over the raised areas on this and see how this turns out. And actually, I think that the unevenness of the white paint on there actually does look a lot like frosting. So cute. I'm going to keep working on this, and I will show you what it looks like when I'm finished. So here are my little gingerbread houses, and I could not be happier. These are super cute. They really do look high end, and they were not hard to do. I mean, you spray paint the house, and then this marker worked really well. I think the thick tip worked probably better than a thin tip paint marker would work, although it would be good to have both, because there were a couple of places where I wasn't able to get in, such as around this chimney right here. but it really isn't noticeable. And I am just really pleased with this. I would say if you have been thinking about doing this, get to the Dollar Tree, grab your little houses, get some of the nutmeg spray paint, and go for it. And a paint marker, a white paint marker too. But I love these and they light up. And I think these houses were still $1.25. So maybe $1.50, but still a great deal. Super, super cute. Well, you made it to the end. Good job. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell and set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. And if you enjoy Dollar Tree DIYs and DIYs on a budget, I have hundreds of videos on this channel with so many more projects. So be sure to check those out, and I will link one of my favorites here for you to watch next. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.